Hi everyone and welcome back to Stephan Livera podcast brought to you by Bold. US listeners, you can buy Bitcoin for the lowest fees in the industry and also earn the highest sats back with the Bold debit card. Now joining me on the show today is Jan Kotas. He is in Paraguay and also representing the Bitcoin Paraguay or BTC Paraguay scene. First off, welcome to the show, Jan.
Thank you for having me.
So, Jan, I know you're a Czech guy. I ran into you and met you in, just at BTC Prague earlier this year. And I know you're focused on Paraguay as well. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up in Paraguay.
Well, as you mentioned, I'm a co-founder of Bitcoin Paraguay, which is a non-profit organization. It's a community-based organization. In Paraguay, we are focusing on helping with the adoption, local Bitcoin adoption, spreading the awareness about the Bitcoin and trying to kind of like orange pill Paraguay as well. And then I'm also co-founder of the Hacking Lives, which is a company. And with this company, we're focusing on helping people get more sovereignty to their lives by implementing flag-theory practices.
I see. Yeah. And so this is kind of in circles that I'm running in, and I'm sure circles that you're running in, I'm hearing a lot more about Paraguay in recent years. I would say in the last maybe 2 to 3 years, it's really come up a lot. Like I've never been there, but this is just like, even just from what I'm hearing from people, there's more people talking about it. There's just more people who are sort of mentioning it as, you know, people who are kind of in digital nomad and flag theory circles. So can you give us a bit of an overview from that perspective? Why is Paraguay and the city Asuncion interesting for those kinds of people?
I would say Paraguay is kind of a hidden gem in South America, maybe in the world, because it gives you many benefits. If you're, for example, a resident of Paraguay, you get really great tax system. You can optimize your taxes. You can live there. You can get high degree of freedom if you live in Paraguay. And it wasn't really even like 5 years ago, like no one really spoke about Paraguay. Everybody spoke about like UAE or countries with which are really open to businesses and freedom seekers, but Paraguay wasn't on the sovereignty map, let's say, until like maybe 2020, 2021, when everything like changed and suddenly like there is a huge digital nomad community. Many expats are moving to Paraguay. We also started the Bitcoin Paraguay community, which is rapidly growing. And so, yeah, right now, many people are realizing Paraguay actually is becoming the place to go and place to be, because it offers you a lot for very little. For example, with the Paraguayan residency, there are really low requirements to maintain the Paraguayan residency, and this is really great for the digital nomads, which are like traveling all across the world, but they still want to have a base place they can go to anytime and spend their part of the year, or just to keep the tax residency benefits that Paraguay offers to them.
I see, yeah. And how's the infrastructure there? Like, I presume it has developed a lot in the recent, call it 5 years or so?
Yes. I mean, of course, if you compare it with the Western societies, Western countries, it's definitely not as developed as, for example, Europe or United States. But, it's every time it's about the compromises. And for me, for example, of course, the infrastructure is not really well developed, but I more appreciate the freedom Paraguay offers to me and the way I can basically create my own life and live life on my own terms, let's say.
Yeah. And how would you say the safety is there and crime rates and things? Especially, I guess we're talking here about Asuncion specifically.
Okay. Well, in Asuncion, it's okay, kind of. Of course, as in any other Latin American country, it very much depends on where you are and what time. Of course, you don't want to go to like barriers that are less developed, where poorer people live, because those tend to be more dangerous. There is like higher criminal rate, but there are barrios or neighborhoods that are well developed and that are pretty safe. And usually in those barrios, the expats and people that are in our communities live, and they are pretty safe.
Yeah. Now, in terms of, I guess, just general expat communities, because again, I'm hearing about this in various, like, not just even in the Bitcoin world, but kind of in the broader expat kind of digital nomad flag theory people. I'm hearing about this from them too. So are you seeing that in terms of the meetup groups and kind of the connections that you can make, that aspect of it?
Yes. I think Paraguay attracts really great sort of people because, and that's also the reason why I actually stayed there, because when I came first time to the Paraguay, I just wanted to get my residency and then continue traveling, because my background is in computer science, and I was a programmer for many years, working as a freelancer and moving all around the world. And Paraguay actually made me stay. I realized that I really value the community I got there, because it never happened to me before, where I was surrounded by people that are very like-minded and very, I would say, on the same wavelength with me, thinking about the same issues, same problems, also not really big friends of the state and advocates of freedom. So I really found my place in Paraguay, and that's what made me the stay. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. And so, would you say when people come to Paraguay, or Asuncion as well, typically are they doing like part of the year there, or are there people who are, let's say, mostly based there, but they're kind of flying around a bit? What are you seeing in your circles? Like, is it put it this way, are they thinking of it as like, this is like where I'm gonna park and home base, or is it more like I stop in here once or twice a year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I would say there are three categories of people that are visiting Paraguay. First of them are just Plan B seekers. Those just go there, but they have no intention to actually move there. They just go there to get the residency, and then they go back to their home country and stay there, with the optionality to move there someday in the future. So this is the first category. The second category are digital nomads, and those usually go there to get their tax residency, and they usually stay there like 2-3 months a year, but then they continue moving around. And the third category are actually people that are expats that moved there, or that are
Right, and
spending
they
like
live
big part
there
of the
as
year.
their primary base, let's say.
Yes.
Yeah. Gotcha. And I guess, for many people, they might have like family overseas or whatever, but they might spend most of the time there in Asuncion,
Mm-hmm.
but then go back and see family for like a month or two per year, something like that. That might be
Exactly.
more typical in that third category, let's say. And then talking about the regulatory, the regulation and the environment there, like and the tax side of things. I guess it's known for being a territorial tax system, right? Because that's the big thing, right? That if you live there and you have your income from outside of Paraguay, then that generally is not being taxed by the Paraguay state, let's say. So can you outline a little bit or elaborate a bit on that side of things, how people are structuring from the tax perspective there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is I would say for the digital nomads, this is the biggest benefit for them to actually get the Paraguay residency, because you can get a Paraguayan residency and tax residency, which has basically kind of the same requirements as the physical residency, the permits to stay there in Paraguay. So they can just keep their tax residency and invoice on, for example, US LLC. So, and all the income that is invoiced on the US LLC is basically seen as an international income. So for the remote workers who are, for example, freelancing, or usually programmers or content creators or UX designers, these kind of people, they can create really great tax efficient structure with tax residency in Paraguay, and for example US LLC, invoicing with the US LLC, and from the Paraguayan side it's considered as international income or foreign income, and it's not taxed in Paraguay, which is just great.
I see. Yeah. And so could you explain a bit about the US LLC side of things? Like, I guess here we're getting into a little bit on the Hacking Lives company, but can you explain a bit on that? Because how does it work that they're able to route funds or their income via the US LLC without paying taxes into the US?
Yes. Well, it very much depends on you cannot be a tax resident of the United States, of course. And this is, for example, problem with the people that are from the US, which are not really eligible for this because US taxes international income. So US citizens, passport holders, they are not very eligible for this setup. But for example, Europeans that tax based on their residency where they stay most of the year, for them this setup makes a lot of sense. And with the US LLC, as I said, you can just create very simple structure because it's low maintenance structure. With the US LLC, you can create it in a couple of days and start invoicing. And you don't have to think about the bureaucracy that much because it's very simple. Like once per year, you have to pay for the register agent, you have to pay the state fee, and then fill like 2 IRS forms, and that's it. That's everything, and it's very simple to maintain. And on the Paraguayan side, you just have to like every month report a statement, IVA statement, and it's basically for 2 minutes work. So it's very low maintenance structure, and that they basically let you to focus on your business rather than the bureaucracy. So it's not just about the tax savings, but it's also about like saving your time and focusing on what is important for your business.
I see. Yeah. And so I guess the key point there is this is for non-US taxpayers and citizens.
Yes.
And there is some, structural work required to set that up. But I'm curious, do you think that could change in the future? Like, could US tax rules or reporting change that changes this treatment?
Well, let's see. I mean, it works for quite some time already. And many people, they were using it even before it became so popular. So I don't know, like it's hard to say. I mean, there is a higher possibility that something will change on the Paraguayan side, that it will, for example, stop or change the rules about their foreign income. But I don't see the change coming in the short term, to be honest.
And then, as you mentioned, on the Paraguay side, do you believe that, I guess, on the Paraguay government side of things, or politicians might see this like, oh, hey, there's all these like digital nomad people and flag theory, all these people coming and setting up here and moving to Asuncion.
Yeah.
Is it time to start going after them for taxes? Or is the perception seen like, actually, we're proud of the current tax structure and we want people to move here? And we are maybe they're just hoping that you guys, people who come and set up there, will, I guess, invest locally or set up businesses locally or do something to do additional things that contribute to the local economy.
Yeah, I think like Paraguay itself benefits a lot from this because, of course, all those people, they are high-skilled individuals, and Paraguay wants to attract these kind of people to build Paraguay, because Paraguay itself, like the territory size is about Germany, but the population is around 6-7 million, and most of it is concentrated in Asuncion. It's compared to, for example, Europe or United States, it's much less developed, even though it's developing really fast recently. And those people bring experience. Like those people from Europe, they have usually high education, and this is like one of the requirements. It's easier for people, for example, that have this university degree to apply for the residency. And these people, if they make them stay in Paraguay, they can create businesses or invest in local real estate and give people's job and so on.
Yeah, of course. And even just living there, you're going to be buying, things locally, whether that's food or other services, or kind of as a source of demand for other businesses that are in Asuncion, as an example. And so, any thoughts on like reporting requirements and things like that? Because that seems to be coming up around the world. Things like crypto asset reporting framework, or like on the crypto Bitcoin side of things, or even just, you know, various jurisdictions are starting to like ask more and more things like, hey, source of wealth, source of funds, this kind of thing. Like these kinds of questions are escalating. What's your view on that stuff?
Well, the good thing about the Paraguay is that if you want to get the residency, you don't have to prove any source of funds or any income. So this is actually great benefit for the Bitcoiners or people that are in crypto space, because you don't want to give your addresses and show them that you own some crypto assets, right? So and you don't even have to like give them bank statements and so on. They still can't open you a bank account, which is great. So there are not many countries in the world that actually allow this.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it is interesting to see that because, it does seem to be kind of escalating elsewhere around the world. And that could also be another driving factor of people wanting to move to look at some of these other jurisdictions where maybe the reporting requirements aren't as stringent. I guess one downside I have heard with some of these aspects of it is if you go somewhere that has lower taxes, either directly or kind of the territorial tax system, it can be more difficult to set up bank accounts. Like sometimes it's like, or you can set up a bank account, but then other banks may not be easily wiring funds to you in that jurisdiction because, you know, all the world, they're sort of starting to, you know, get aggressive about taxes and things like this.
Yes, I completely agree. And even in Paraguay, even though that for example you can buy in Paraguay a real estate with a Bitcoin or USDT, still local banks are still quite hostile to crypto assets in general. So there are many cases where people, for example, I don't know, they did peer-to-peer transaction with someone and they said in the note that it's for Bitcoin, and basically the local bank account, they shut down their account. So this is pretty much similar to any other state in the world currently. It's not very crypto friendly, but I would say that it's slowly changing with the awareness and also what we do with Bitcoin Paraguay, with the education. It's slowly starting to change and things are starting to move the right direction also in this sector.
Yeah, it does seem that a lot of the world, whether they want to admit it or not, they're kind of following a US guidance, right? So when like the US kind of let Bitcoin ETFs happen, you know, spot Bitcoin ETFs happen in the US, that seems to have really kind of kicked off more conversations all around the world. And now, obviously, right now, the hot topic is the treasury companies, but just kind of around the world, we're seeing more and more interest in things like banks, like normal TradFi banks, having Bitcoin accounts. Now, maybe they're not as advanced, or maybe they've got like custodial Bitcoin that you can't withdraw or things like this, but it's at least a step where they're starting to expose Bitcoin to their own customers. And so that's something I'm noticing. What are you seeing on that?
Yeah, I think that especially those little countries like Paraguay, they can benefit greatly from enabling people to use, if it's Bitcoin or if it's a Tether, it can bring a lot of capital to the country, and this capital can be invested if they open themselves to this, because still Paraguay is outside of the CRS. So they don't have these reporting obligations yet.
Yeah, I guess we should just quickly explain that. So CRS, as I'm understanding, it's kind of like FATCA but for the rest of the world. So basically, banks, in jurisdictions that have signed up with CRS, the banks in that jurisdiction have to basically ask customers, hey, what citizenships do you hold? What tax residency do you hold? What residencies do you hold? And then based on that, they will then start like reporting that back to your home country and home tax office, or the countries that you have citizenships or passports or whatever. And so then there are some jurisdictions that have, like many of them, have signed up to CRS. And it sounds like you're saying here Paraguay is actually not a CRS member. So therefore the banks don't have to do that same level of reporting.
Exactly. But this also creates a lot of friction, because getting money to Paraguay or outside of the Paraguay is increasingly harder than if you're transferring money between the CRS member states.
The lead sponsor of this show is Bold, the banking platform designed for Bitcoiners. With the Bold Virtual Visa Debit Card, you earn Bitcoin back on every purchase. The more Bitcoin you buy with Bold, the more sats back you get on the card. Buy $2,500 of Bitcoin and earn 3% sats back. Keep stacking with Bold to earn up to 10% sats back. Bold offers the industry's lowest fees on Bitcoin buys and sells with zero added spreads. When starting out, you can use Bold Wallet, which is managed by the team, but Bold is also supporting self-custody with Bold Vault, a 2 of 3 collaborative custody multisig for zero monthly fees. With Bold, you get your own FDIC-insured checking account to store and send fiat, pay bills, direct deposit your paycheck, and replace your legacy fiat bank. Sign up today and get zero fees on your first $10,000 of Bitcoin buys and $25 of free Bitcoin when you buy $100 of Bitcoin or more. Go to getbold.io. This episode is brought to you by CoinKite, the makers of my favorite Bitcoin hardware wallet, the Cold Card Q. Now, some people think self-custody is too hard, but it's really about taking responsibility for your Bitcoin wealth and understanding that self-custody gives you a true feeling of liberty. The Cold Card Q has a full keyboard and big screen. It's got 2 secure elements and a true air gap, allowing you to go fully air-gapped using QR codes from seed generation to transaction signing. You can power the device using 3 AAA batteries, so you don't even have to plug it into the wall for power. You can easily use it with Sparrow Wallet for PC or Nunchuck on mobile, and you can dial it into the right level of security and complexity that you choose. If you want a simple setup, just use 12 words and single signature. If you want passphrases, easy. If you want to add multi-sig or co-signing features, you've got those too. So go to coinkite.com, use code Livera to get 10% off on your cold card or other devices and level up your self-custody today. Right, I see. So that's kind of another downside trade-off there. But yeah, I guess it is interesting to see because it's sort of like Bitcoin is starting to go more mainstream. But as part of that, I think governments and politicians are taking more of an interest, and now it's starting to become more, more regulated and more of this kind of, oh, we'll let you do this, but it needs to be whatever, chain analysis or chain surveillance aspects of it or X, Y, and Z. And I think some of this is like, it was going to have to go this way, right? I think realistically. Now, of course, many of us have, let's say, cypherpunk or libertarian leanings in how we see the world, so we're against that regulation in principle, but it is also, that's how Bitcoin is going to mainstream, isn't it? Exactly.
Yeah, I think this was inevitable. This has to happen. Even though I'm a cypherpunk, I'm a Bitcoin maximalist. I really like peer-to-peer and all the initiatives. I still have to admit that for the mainstream adoption, this has to happen because not everybody is like us. Not everybody understands the principle and is in favor of this principle we are following, basically.
Yeah, I see. And I think that's maybe another big, like one thing that I see now, of course, in Bitcoin and libertarian circles, this is not a fringe opinion that, AML and FATF and KYC and sanctions laws are a bad thing. Yeah. But we're a small minority for now. And maybe over time, if we sort of get enough people to understand that all this AML laws, all these sanctions laws, all this KYC or BSA in the US context, it's making us worse off. It's making us less safe because now there's all this information about us everywhere. Whenever you have to KYC with services, and now they know your passport, or they know your address, and now, hackers are getting hold of this information, or even that recent one where I think it was Coinbase had some international staff who maybe were not vetted correctly or whatever, and they let that information out. So then you can think about, like, imagine if there's all these like Bitcoin holders where, Coinbase data, Coinbase has the data on them on how many Bitcoin they hold and their home address. And you can think about like what this means if like hackers and bad people get hold of that information, right?
Yeah, it's very dangerous. And that's when I explain Bitcoin to the people during the workshops, and I'm telling them about the ways they can buy some Bitcoin, I always trying to stress all the benefits and also the cons of KYC versus peer-to-peer, and this is one of the main points. And the people usually tell me, like, if I buy Bitcoin peer-to-peer without the KYC, I usually paying higher fee, or basically more vulnerable if I do in-person trade, because someone can just like rob me on the street and so on. But I'm always telling them, but if you give all those information to the crypto exchanges, and they will save them somewhere you don't even know, you don't know how they treat the data, and they are obliged by the government to give them access to this information if they ask them for. This is like huge attack vector, and you never know, like in the future, as you said, like these data can leak, and some bad actor, it doesn't even have to be a government, it can be just some hacking group or some wildland group that will attack you on the street. If they get access to this data, it puts you in a great danger.
Yeah. And but at the same time, I'm also not, against like, KYC exchanges existing, because at the same time, I'm not expecting entrepreneurs to go and kind of martyr themselves and like martyr themselves for the cause to like do no KYC and get sent to jail because they didn't comply with the government regulation. Because at the same time, I think what we need is to kind of push back against AML and KYC and FATF, the concept, and at the legal level, maybe not the most cypherpunk thing, but that's at least something that on the Bitcoin advocacy side. So, I think that, yeah, but also on the technology and the cypherpunk side, yeah, there's like maybe there's better privacy techniques that can be implemented in Bitcoin, things like, pay join and silent payments and I don't know, coin join stuff as well. We'll see what happens there, I guess. But let's bring it back to Bitcoin Paraguay, BTC Paraguay. Tell us a little bit about the community you're building there, the meetups, and I know you've got a conference as well. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing on the BTC Paraguay front.
Mm-hmm. Well, Bitcoin Paraguay started 1 year ago, more or less. We started doing regular meetups every month. First Wednesday a month, we do a big meetup. Recent meetups, we had over 150 people showing up. So it got, during all the year, it got pretty big. And right now we count about like 500 active members in our WhatsApp community. Of course, there are some people that are not part of this WhatsApp group, but yeah, we are doing workshops. We are also right now cooperating with Mi Primer Bitcoin, my first
cool.
Bitcoin, the El Salvadorian education initiative. So they made their first course in Paraguay 2 months ago. Now they are planning to do the next one. So yeah, we are working on basically educating people about Bitcoin and spreading financial education in Paraguay, because with this, we hope that we can actually make some change. And it's also great to have a community of people where you can share the ideas and you can make some friendships and have a good time. So it's like the broader family, I would say, right now for us.
Gotcha. And so so you mentioned the monthly meetups, and then you also mentioned kind of a little bit on the educational side. So you mentioned like Mi Primo Bitcoin. Are you doing any like educational workshops yourself, or what's the story on that?
Yeah, basically it all started because of the workshops. When I came and started living in Paraguay, there were already expat community, and many people were interested in Bitcoin or USDT, and they were trying to find a way how to get money to country and from the country. And I was like, okay, I know about Bitcoin, and maybe I should start telling people or educating them about how it works and why do we need it and why is it so important for our society. And so it started like that. We made a few workshops, I think like 5-6 workshops, and then a group started to get bigger and bigger, and we started our first chat, and then I get in touch with some locals that were also Bitcoiners, and we got this idea that maybe we can organize it a little, and we should create our like community brand, Bitcoin Paraguay, and start organizing regular workshops and regular meetups. So it all started like that, and then we got this vision to actually orange pill Paraguay and educate people.
So I'm curious then, when those people, now let's sidebar, or like, excluding the people who are already maxis per se, already kind of hardcore Bitcoiners, the people you're running into, like the expats, let's say, the wealthier kind of nomad expat types, how familiar would you say they were with Bitcoin and stablecoins? Like, is it like they had a peripheral awareness of it? Maybe they occasionally got paid in it, but not that often. And then you were kind of teaching them a bit more about like, okay, here's how you actually do self-custody. Or what was the level they were at that you were finding?
I would say the most of the people we are educating are complete beginners. They either, well, most of them heard about the Bitcoin, but they never bought any Bitcoin or never really research what Bitcoin is and why they need it. So what we do always, we give them the reason why they should explore Bitcoin. So we teach them like what is money, why our current money is broken.
Gotcha. And this is even amongst the already like kind of savvy expat communities.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So they just have very low awareness of like, in terms of, they would have heard about Bitcoin, but they haven't actually used it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, right now there are more and more expats that already have some background in Bitcoin that are coming to Paraguay, but they are already coming because we have the community, I would say, and they know about us and they are joining the community.
Gotcha. And they might have friends overseas who hear about it and they're like, oh, okay, you're there, I'll come and join you or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, interesting. And then to your point, you were saying earlier around the difficulty of, sometimes getting fiat into the country because, again, not a CRS jurisdiction, and sometimes, the banks are a bit more, because in the fiat side of things, they have to have like a correspondent bank who's willing to send that fiat. So how are you finding people do move fiat into Paraguay? Is it just that there's certain pathways that exist, but they're just not that popular or not that well known, or like how do people move fiat into and out of Paraguay? Is it just like stablecoin stuff or what?
Yeah, well, you can do like between banks transactions, standard transactions, but usually the fees are much higher. It takes more time. There is more scrutiny. But yeah, there are many parties that are actually using stable coins to move money out and in to Paraguay. So, for example, there are some real estate investors that are just sending companies stable coins, and
gotcha.
There are
and
people
so people are like buying a property with like Tether, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, like Paraguay is probably one of the few countries that you can actually buy property with both fiat and Bitcoin or USDT. So which, like for me as a European, this is just crazy. Like in Europe, you cannot just come to the owner and tell him like, hey, I'm buying this property for Bitcoin, or at least not in Czech Republic where I'm from. But in Paraguay, it's definitely possible and you can do it.
Yeah, I'm curious your thoughts. As a Czech guy, looking at what's happening in the EU, it doesn't look good in terms of like where things are going, like the mindset, the regulatory environment, this kind of, even the stuff like things like so-called chat control. So this idea of like, even if you have end-to-end encrypted chat apps like Signal and whatever, they want to now have scanning at the phone level so that it doesn't even matter if your chat app is encrypted. So what are your views on what's going on in the EU from like the Bitcoin and regulatory standpoint?
Yeah, well, it makes me a little afraid because, of course, I care about Czech Republic still, even though I am a Paraguay resident. I live there and I'm building stuff there. I still feel the pain of my friends, Europeans that are here and want to stay here. And that's also the reason why more and more people are seeking the plan B, because they see the development of Europe and they see the direction or the trajectory is not great. And many things are getting worse rather than better. So they are seeking options in case that the situation will worsen even more. And of course, with this chat control and the privacy issues and the financial oppression here in Europe, that you cannot make like high amount transaction without explaining
Right.
what is it
and
for.
like, isn't it certain above a certain value, cash transactions are not, like physical cash transactions are not allowed in the EU.
Yes.
So they want to force you to use it through the fiat bank account, so then they can easily trace transactions and surveil us all. And this seems to be the mindset, right?
Exactly. And the problem is the majority of the society, they actually agree with this, and then you have those like sovereign individuals that are basically trapped here, and they are seeking solution elsewhere because they see they cannot overvote the majority of the society. But still, I believe like the situation, I'm trying to be optimist, and I think that after what happened during the COVID, people are starting slowly to wake up, and they are trying to see things more clearly, and that's also why we have, for example, in Czech Republic, we have really great a Bitcoin community here with thousands of members. This community is actually much more developed than the Paraguayan one, and there are many Bitcoin companies, and now they actually achieved to get a regulation to get like 3 years period when if you hold
Right,
Bitcoin,
this is that
you don't
new
have
one
to
where if you
tax.
hold it for 3 years, there's no CGT. So I think it's
Yes.
become quite popular in the Czech Republic,
Yes.
which is, I guess, unusual compared to if you're comparing Czech Republic versus the rest of EU and Europe even.
Exactly, but still, Czech Republic is part of the European Union, and we have little voice compared to Germany or France, where the majority of societies is calling for the more and more oppression in this sense.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be an uphill battle on that side of like kind of the ideological liberty and cypherpunk aspect of it. But nevertheless, the flag theory aspect of it allows people to go to different places, and we're seeing more. The CBI market is continually evolving over time, right? Like we've seen, let's say the Caribbean ones have gone up in price a bit, since a few years ago. We're seeing other new entrants into the market. They're coming. There's the El Salvador program for 1 million, but I think the Malta program has kind of gone away, but it's coming back. It's all kind of evolving and changing pretty quickly. Do you have any thoughts on where that's going? Because I know these are kind of the circles that you're running in and some of the topics that you're thinking about.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's unbelievable for me to see the development of this market, especially like the CBIs. But of course, the problem of the CBIs it's only for high net worth individuals because the investment there and all the scrutiny and everything is much higher than, for example, with the residencies, the hacking lives, the my company is focusing on. So the flag theory is important, but for example, the CBIs, it's just unachievable for the normal people, and we are trying to make flag theory or sovereign lifestyle more accessible for more people, and that's where the residencies stand, because of course with the residency you don't get all the benefits like with the citizenship, but still you have something. You're not like without
You're
the
not
options.
totally without an option there.
Yeah.
I'm curious from your perspective as well. Like I'm sure in Asuncion and stuff. It's one thing to kind of do the flag theory stuff as a single man, and then maybe another level of like if you're a couple but without children. But once you start having children, I think that it does. I mean, it's still possible, but it is another level of difficulty, wouldn't you say? That it starts to raise the requirement in terms of either your income, your wealth, or just kind of your grit to kind of, or how flexible you are to sort of do that lifestyle with children, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we also have families as a clients, for example, but those usually seek the plan B. They just want to get the residency and then they go back to their home country and continue living there. But also we have some families that, for example, are considering or basically moving to Paraguay at this point, but it's a minority. I mean,
Yeah.
There is more and more people actually considering it and executing it, but yeah, I would say the majority of the people, especially the people that are seeking the tax benefits, those are usually individuals, like digital nomads. They're traveling the world. They are independent without families.
Yeah, I see. So let's try to summarize that aspect of it then. So as I'm reading you, tax benefits, right? You can, if you are the kind of person who can work remotely and get paid online, Bitcoin or stable coins or whatever, the tax benefit could really be beneficial. I guess this aspect of like being with other like-minded, freedom-minded individuals who are kind of more cypherpunk and or libertarian, let's say, maybe that's a plus side, as you've mentioned. Just kind of a different lifestyle that might be kind of a benefit there. Lower cost of living, probably. Like it's probably a lower cost of living, I'm assuming. Now on the downside, it might be like, okay, the infrastructure is not quite what you may be used to. Like if you're a Western listener who's from like one of the rich, America, US, UK, Australia, Canada, Western Europe countries, maybe the lifestyle, you're going to have to make certain trade-offs in terms of what you're used to and what you get. What else would you say is kind of, what are the main pros and cons of moving to Paraguay and doing the flag theory aspects?
I would say the important aspect is the community. Well, this was something that really caught my attention there, because, and this is why I believe like the Bitcoin communities are so important for the freedom movement, because even if I'm part of the local community and the situation in my home country get worse, I still have so many options where to go, because you know it from the Bitcoin conferences. Like if you run into anyone, 99% of the people, you will probably have a really good conversation. And this is why I think that the Bitcoin communities are so important, because there are communities on Madeira, in Paraguay, in El Salvador, in Czech Republic, in Germany, in I don't know, Bali, and if shit hits the fan, basically, you can go there, you can move there and become a part of the community from the day one. And that's very important for me, because I want to be surrounded by the like-minded individuals, because it helps me grow and it helps me have a good time and live by the purpose.
Yeah, and that can be both on the fun side of things and also business too, right? That there may be business opportunities that come to you by being in some of these areas, because the people who come through can be interesting, or investors or entrepreneurs themselves, or maybe you end up working for or with one of these people or hiring them. Like, I guess there's just kind of different opportunities that can come up when you kind of run into the right circles of entrepreneurs, investors, Bitcoin people, this kind of thing.
Exactly. Like each country I was in, it taught me something about myself and about like the way I want to live, because you can basically take the best from all the cultures and mix it together and be a happy person. And that's what I want to achieve in my life. For example, that I want to live by the values I believe in, not necessarily by the values I was injected by the culture I come from.
Gotcha. So I guess, I mean, I'm curious to hear from your perspective, because there is, as you said, there's a pretty strong Bitcoin community in Czech Republic. So what was the main thing that caused you to say, all right, I'm going to actually spend most of my time in Asuncion instead of in the Czech Republic? Yeah,
of course. Well, I was already a digital nomad, so for me, it wasn't so hard to imagine living somewhere else than my home country. So this decision wasn't so hard. But of course, when I get to Asuncion, I missed the Czech community. I missed the regular meetups, and that was also part of the motivation why I co-created the Bitcoin Paraguay, because I wanted to create the same environment there, and I saw so many like-minded people that were interested in this. So we made it happen, and now we are like a big family. We are having barbecues together. We are having beer together, having a good time. So.
Fantastic. And we should also talk about, I know you have a conference coming up, and I know you invited me. Unfortunately, I have a clash, so I can't make that. But just for listeners who are either in Paraguay or interested to come visit, tell us a little bit about that. What's the conference? What are the dates? What can people expect to see if they attend?
Yeah, sure. So on 15, 16 September, we are organizing Accelerating Bitcoin conference, which is the first Bitcoin-only conference in Paraguay. We invited people like Samson Mo, who is coming and is going to be a headliner. So I'm looking forward to it. And of course, we want to present a little bit the opportunity that Paraguay's offer for the freedom seekers, for the Bitcoiners, and also the benefits of Paraguay. For example, a lot of free energy that is there for the miners and people that want to invest in this sector. So I think Paraguay has a lot to offer, and this conference is something to showcase all the benefits Paraguay brings to the table.
Excellent. Well, by the way, do you have a website for that as well? We should read it out just so people know.
Yeah, you can search it, acceleratingbitcoin.com.
Fantastic. All right. Well, yeah, we'll put the links in the show notes. Listeners, you can follow Jan on X, and of course, check out the conference. And yeah, sorry I can't make it this year, but maybe in future sometime. Thanks for joining me.
Maybe the next year. Yeah. Thank you very much.
And just before we let you go, for the sat hunters out there taking part and hunting for sats, the special seed word from this episode is lottery. That word is lottery. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.